One of the things that was also tricky for me in determining this debt to income ratio was because I am an authorized user on a lot of my mom's credit cards. Being an authorized user on your parents' credit cards boosts your credit score when you don't have any. No, mind you, I have a bunch of credit now, but it boosts your credit score, and that's why my parents did it with me growing up. However, this became very, very tricky in this situation, very frustrating, because even though I'm an authorized user on my mom's credit card, they were trying to use her debt against me. So basically, they were trying to say, I have my debt and I have her debt. And so what became frustrating was I had to prove, and actually my mom had to become very involved in this. She had to prove that I have never, ever, ever basically paid off any of her credit, like any of her bills. So she had to provide a lot of bank statements, etc., proving for the last 2 years that I have never paid anything of her credit card, which I have never not. I have not. But basically, she had to prove that, which was very frustrating to her because she felt like, okay, like I'm not buying the house, my daughter is. But she did. She had to provide a lot of information on that. I know you are wondering, like, well, what's the average down payment on a house? I know if you Google it, a lot of places say 20%. I can tell you now, a lot of people don't put 20% down on their houses. Like, sorry to say, but a lot of people don't have 20%. I didn't have 20%. The lowest you could put down is 3%. Did I put down more than 3%? Yes. But you don't have to have 20%. So I'd say, because I know you're wondering, like, how much money do I at least need to have to buy a home? I would say have at least about $20,000. $20,000. Say you'd be okay. So also too, I wanted to talk about gifting. There's a thing called gifting where people can gift you money towards your down payment, and the mortgage company doesn't care if somebody gives you money, but you have to tell them that somebody is gifting you money. Personally, I did not have anyone gift my money. My parents, even though my parents love them so much, they wanted to help me out, but I did not want them to help me. I wanted my house to be my house and be my name, and I paid every last cent of my house and everything that is in it with my money. I'm just like that. I'm very independent. I wanted to do it by myself. I wanted to prove to myself I could do it. So I did not have anyone give me money. However, if your parents or anyone, boyfriend, girlfriend, I don't care who it is, wants to give you a couple $1,000s, and hey, go ahead. And that's so another thing too that will help you in buying home is you can have a co-owner. I guess that's what you call it. Basically having another person on your deed. So like most married couples do this. I mean, if you're married, I would do it too. But you can have somebody else on your deed. So let's say I want my dad on my deed. They have to factor also in his debt to income ratio with mine too. But you can have another person on the deed of your house. Personally, like I said, I did not want any help whatsoever. So I am the sole owner of my house and everything in it. But if you're trying to get a home and your parents say, hey, I'll put my name on it, totally fine. That'll help you out too. One thing that I can say that like kind of was a disadvantage, besides the fact that it was frustrating with being an authorized user, etc., is having a leased vehicle. I do have a leased vehicle. My car is leased. Personally, I don't like to buy cars. My last 2 cars were bought, but my first car, my parents bought it for me. And then my second car, my parents bought as well, but I paid like half of it. I agreed to pay half of it if they bought me a new car. But my new car is leased because I feel, and like I said, everyone has their own opinion, but I personally like to lease vehicles, and I want to continue leasing vehicles because I feel like I will never be satisfied with having one car for just years. Like I don't know. I just feel like personally me, I want the baddest and best car like every couple of years. That's just me. Not everyone is like that. I just can't see myself having a car for like 30 some years. Um, and then also too, like cars depreciate so fast. You try to sell your car 2 years from now, you won't even get like half of what it's worth unless you have a Toyota or a Honda, which honestly they're great cars, but if you're trying to buy a car for the look, your car's gonna depreciate. You ain't gonna get shit for it. So that's why I lease cars. But it actually begin to be a disadvantage because there came the question of my debt to income, and they were like, well, what if you pay off your car? I was like, oh yeah, I can pay off my car. Like I feel like I had enough money where I could pay off my car. But the problem with that was where they were like, oh, but it's a lease, so even if you paid off, we're just gonna say, well, 2 years from now, what are you gonna do next? Like buy another car? You're still gonna have a car note, basically. So that didn't really work. Then also too, what I had to start doing by the time I ended up trying to purchase in the community that I am in, I had to start working lots and lots of overtime. I don't know if you all remember this, but I was working like 6-7 days a week, 12-hour shifts. I was doing 60 plus hours. But I'm glad I did it. So basically I was doing that to make it look like I made more money. And although they know it's overtime and not what you actually just regularly make, they trust in overtime because they know that if any time came where you couldn't afford your mortgage, or if you just had a bunch of bills to pay or something, you could work overtime just to pay your mortgage, and they trust in that overtime. So working overtime for me is honestly really, to be honest, y'all, how I got my house. Because you can make something, especially being a nurse, everyone knows nurses, like, we're set, but you can make an amount and then with overtime make like a far more than what you were making before, especially before taxes. Okay, so basically if y'all have a job that y'all can do overtime with, start doing it now. Because all they're going to want to see is that consistent overtime. Then after you settle, you can stop working overtime if you want to, sweetie. Don't even matter. So that's that. Those are just little key things about purchasing a home. So now, because I have a little thing that I have to discuss, I want to talk about PMI, conventional loans, and FHA loans. So conventional loans, that's the best loan you can get. Honestly, no. How you call it? A VHA loan is actually the best loan you get, but you have to be like military, Navy, whatever to get that loan. That means you don't have to put like any money down. But if you're not that like me, a conventional loan is the best loan you can get because they're basically saying that you don't have that much debt. So your debt to income ratio is so low that your mortgage is just your mortgage. An FHA loan, which most people who are first-time home buyers have this type of loan, I have this type of loan, is when they're kind of in a sense unsure about your inability to pay, even though you've proved you can pay it on paper, but they're still not exactly quite trusting it. So what they do is they charge you PMI. PMI is basically like a set fee or like interest on top of your mortgage that you pay every month, just in case you can't pay it. So I know that sounds weird, but basically they charge you an extra, let's say $200 to basically cover themselves if you ever went into foreclosure or could not pay your house. PMI is not the way to go, but I'll explain later why I ended up going with that instead of conventional. Actually, no, I can explain that now. So basically, when I was set to purchase my home in this community, I actually was supposed to purchase a smaller home in this community. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of my close friends know that, but a lot of people don't know that. The house that I have now is not the house that I was originally supposed to buy. So I had posted a picture in like July, I want to say, of me standing in front of a for sale sign. That was my old house. That house was a to be built. The house that I have now is actually a spec home. So what happened was I was adding like all of these upgrades to the smaller home, and by time, so the home that I have now is a spec home. So spec homes, if you all don't know what that is basically a home that's already built. It was already selected by the builder of all the upgrades, et cetera in it. And my home is a spec home because it is next to the model house. It's in the same row as the model house. So spec homes are always cheaper. Even the first home that I was looking at in Westphalia was a spec home. Spec homes are always cheaper. So if you're really looking to get a bang for your buck, look at a spec home. Having a house built is fine, but honestly, my home had everything that I wanted in it. Like, yeah, I'm like looking around, like literally everything I wanted in it. So I wasn't even upset buying a spec home. But the price on my home had actually dropped twice because they were trying to sell it. And by time I was ready to buy my original house, it was only going to be, I think, like $3,000 cheaper than the house that I have now. And so I was like, oh, why would I buy the smaller house when I can get the bigger house for $3,000 more? I don't know about y'all, but it made sense to me. So I actually decided to switch houses. And I did. I switched houses. So I got the bigger home for basically, I got a really good deal on this house just now. And so while I was doing my loan, and this is the most frustrating part, like you have to have a really good loan officer. I was having issues with my loan officer here because the numbers just weren't adding up right. She wasn't making any sense. She was throwing in all these strange little numbers that didn't make sense. She thought we was stupid, but we not. So I started to go with another mortgage company. And honestly, guys, if you're really trying to push these numbers, I would totally recommend basically looking at two different mortgage companies, because then in a sense they're kind of racing like, oh, let me get this loan, so basically that's kind of what happened to me. I had a different mortgage company who was giving me a way better price, a conventional loan at that, instead of the FHA loan that I have. So which in a sense made the loan that I have now keep coming down, because they were basically racing trying to get my money. Like, I would totally recommend having